Hello there everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can create an eyelid closing setup in Blender without doing any rigging or weight painting. Yes, we are going to be using Shapekeys, but the problem with Shapekeys is that if you've got a round eye, then the eyelids are going to be intersecting with the eyeballs. But in this video I'm going to show you some awesome tricks to make it working, and it's really fast. Okay, let's open up Blender. So here I've got my toothless model which I created for my how to train your rag and VFX video. If you haven't watched that video, you can watch it from the upper right corner or from the description down below, and I'd highly appreciate if you give it a watch. Okay, so let's get into the video. So we're gonna be using Shapekeys to create the eyelid closing. Then we're gonna fix the problem that I mentioned, but first we have to create the shape key. And if you do not know what is a shape key, let me quickly explain it to you. On a monkey, we should not do tests on monkeys, but no animals were harmed in the making of this video. It's not a real monkey, okay? Let's go into the object data properties, and here in the shape keys we can click on this plus icon which does nothing. It creates this basis shape key which contains the current state of our mesh, and anything we do will happen on this base. So let's create a plus icon to create our first shape key and bring this value all the way up to 1, because if we don't do that, then it's not gonna do anything. Now go to edit mode or sculpt mode. Both of these work. I'm gonna go to edit mode, wireframe mode. I'm gonna select this chin. Then let's bring this down using the proportional editing, and let's do something like that. And now when we change this value, you can see we are blending between the two shapes, which is really awesome. But there's a problem with shape keys. If I go to apply all the shape keys, and let's create a new shape key again, set this to 1. I'm gonna go to edit mode. I'm gonna add the 3D cursor here and change the transform pivot point to 3D cursor, and I'm gonna rotate this to kind of bend this. Let's add a loop cut so that it bends better. Let's select these vertices, and now let's bend his mouse or her mouse, whatever. Now pay attention to what happens when we change this value. It does work, but not as we expected it. You can see that it's not bending, it's only moving the vertices around, and that is the problem with shape keys. The vertices only move from one place to another, and you cannot bend or rotate them. So if you got an eyeball that's bulging out, then if the eyelid closes, it'll just go like this. So as far as I know, there's no method to overcome this problem with shape keys. But the solution I'm going to give you really works with an eyelid closing setup. So let's create our shape key. Let's add the basis, then create our first shape key, and let's rename this to eyelid and left or right. Is it the right or the left? It looks like that it's the right eye, but in actuality it's the left eye if you look from his point of view. Alright, so let's call this eyelid left close, and bring this value all the way up to 1, otherwise nothing would happen. Now let's go to edit mode and begin closing this eyelid. Make sure that the mirroring is off, otherwise it will also happen on the other side, and we don't want that, because we can later mirror the shape key, but it will be hard if we only want to animate the eyelid on one side. Okay, so make sure that it's off. Now let's with the proportional editing on, which you can do by pressing the O key or just pressing here. Now let's select a few vertices and move them down, and you can use the mouse wheel. Okay, let me change the pivot point back to median point. Alright, but as soon as we start closing the eyelid, it gets obvious that it's really unintuitive and hard to get it right. So I'm gonna show you some awesome tips on how you can make it like 10x easier. So first thing, I'm gonna switch to face selection mode, and I'm gonna keep this face, this entire edge loop and this entire edge loop. The topology isn't the best, but it's okay. So I'm gonna keep both of these so that I have this fold. Okay, I'm gonna keep that, but I'm gonna select the next face loop, then press Edge and hide it. Alright, now let's select these vertices and move them down, and again you can see that all of those faces is still affected. And there's a really cool feature. If you go to the proportional editing properties, we can enable connected only, and now if we move these vertices, it's not gonna move the vertices that are not connected. All of these are connected, but because we have hidden those faces, the other part is not affected, which is really cool. Okay, the next setting we're gonna enable is in the snapping. We're gonna set this to face. Okay, now when we move this and hold down control, you can see that it's snapping onto the eyeballs, which is really cool. And if you don't want to hold down control, you could just enable this and just move this and it would work. But what I like is I like to set this off, and I like to just hold down control when I want the snapping to turn on. But you can see that these vertices are inside the eyeball, which is not really what I want. You can see that this is set to closest, but if we set this to active, then the vertex that we select last, the one which is highlighted with white color, is the active one. Now when we hold down control, it's gonna use that point to snap, which is really cool. Okay, let's move it to somewhere around here, and it's really hard to select the vertices here, so I'm gonna just hide the eyes for now. Then select these vertices. Make sure that the bottom one is the active one, the one that you select the last. Enable our eyes collection and move and hold down control, and there we go. Alright, so at this point it's looking pretty good. It's not the perfect shape, but you should spend your time. I'm just making a tutorial, so I'm just making it as fast as I can. Now let's press Alt H to unhide the faces that we just hid, and you can see that these are intersecting with the eyeball, but that's not really much of an issue. We can just fix that by sliding these vertices around. Let's select this edge loop. We can now turn off the proportional editing, then press G, then G again to slide this whole edge loop. And you'd notice that the vertices closest here are getting really close really fast, so something like that is good for these vertices, but it's not good for those vertices. So whoops, so we could just select these vertices, I mean deselect them, sorry, then we can just slide these ones. Okay, so the top one is now is going the opposite direction, so let's just do this one, and let's just do it one by one. Alright, let's bring those down, something like that. Then select these vertices and slide them as well. I'm gonna just hide the eyeballs for now so that it's easier for us to see. Alright, so something like that is good for this. We could just select these and just move them down and try to make this as smooth as you can. I'm just trying to do this as fast as I can, but yeah, you should spend your time and not rush this as well, and try to have this as less stretched as you can. Now let's enable the eyelids and let's select these vertices. Alright, let's select a few vertices, press the G key, then hold down control, and it will snap those vertices. But It's not snapping the individual vertices, it's snapping the average of those vertices. It's not individually snapping them. So we go to the snapping properties and we can choose face project or face nearest for the individual elements. Face project will just project the vertices based on from where you are looking at, but the face nearest will look at the surrounding vertices and snap to them. So I'm gonna use face nearest in this case. Then press the G key. Also, let's enable the proportional editing now. Hold down Control, maybe make the circle bigger. Hold down Control and then confirm. And now you can see that it's sticking on the eyeballs, but it's inside of them. So let's just move those up a bit. Maybe we should have also selected this vertex. Let me just do that again. Maybe this one too. Okay, now it's better. Now let's just move these vertices. I'm gonna make the circle smaller, and we could just select these and we can move these outwards. Just alright, it's now looking super good. Let's go to object mode and test the shape key. And as you can see, this is working, but it's intersecting with the eyeballs. So the real tutorial starts now on how to fix this. So we're going to be utilizing something called lattice object in Blender. If you don't know what is that, let me add an animal again, a monkey. Okay, we are not doing tests on real animals, that's very bad. Okay, so here we have our Suzanne monkey. Let's go to Shift A and add a lattice object. And it's really surprising that majority of the Blender users really don't know about the lattice object. The lattice object is actually like an empty, it doesn't render, but we can use this to deform objects. So move the lattice to the center of your object and scale this to match the bounds of your object. And it's really important to not do this in edit mode. We have an edit mode and object mode for lattice object as well. So make sure to do this in the object mode to match the size of our object. Okay, let's quickly match the size of our object from all the sides like a bounding box. Now we can select our monkey object, go to the modifier properties and add a deform lattice modifier, and here we can select our lattice object, and it does nothing. But if we select our lattice object, go to edit mode, then move these vertices around, you can see that it's deforming our object from these points, which is very cool. And if we go to object mode in the lattice, we can increase these segments, these resolutions, and now we can move these points around to create something really stylized or unique. And this is such a powerful object, so we're gonna be utilizing this for the eyelid. Okay, let's delete these objects. Then I'm gonna place my 3D cursor right here and add in a lattice object, and I'm gonna make this flat by reducing the W value. Then I'm gonna rotate it around the x-axis by 90 degrees, rotating on the z-axis something like that, and we should scale in the object mode somewhere around that, and then RXX to rotate on the local axis, RXX, GZZ to move it something like that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select my dragon, and I'm gonna set the shape key to 0.5, where this is colliding with our eyeball. Okay, and just set this up real quick. Okay, something like this is really good. Let's increase the amount of points. I'm using 4x4 and for the W is 1. Now let's add in a lattice object and select our lattice modifier. And now let's go to edit mode in the lattice object and just move these outwards. And as you can see that the problem is fixed, but not totally. If we do this, you can see that it's not intersecting with the eyeballs, but we don't want the eyelid to be bulging out when it's closed. We only want this to be active when this is at the half value. So what we're gonna do, we can right click here and copy this as a new driver. Then in the lattice modifiers strings, we can right click and paste the driver. And now as we change this value, it's also changing the strength value of the lattice modifier, which is really cool. And you think that it's working, but it's actually not. When this is fully closed, the strength is also at the fullest. But what we want is, when this is at the half value, we want this to be at full value. And when this is closed, we want this to be 0. So what we can do is edit the driver, but before I do that, let me just quickly create a little animation so that it's gonna make our editing easier. So I'm gonna change this to 0 and animate this property, then go forward a few frames and bring this all the way up and animate this, and duplicate the first keyframe and move it forward so that it opens again. Also duplicate this and move this so that the eye is closed for a while. Now we're gonna create a new window. Right click and drag from here, change this to the drivers. Then here we can press the home key or the period key on the keyboard and it's gonna focus on this graph. This is very similar to the graph editor, and here up here these values are the values that are controlling the driver, and these values on the left are the values that are being output. Okay, so if we select the upper handle and move this down, all the way down, then hold down Control and make it totally flat, okay, then the output value of the driver is gonna be 0 all the time. What we want is, we want this to be full when this is at the middle. I'm gonna select these two handles, these 2 points, and I'm gonna move those up, and I'm gonna move these to the 1 value. Alright, this right here. Now what will happen is, this will start from 0, go to 1 at the middle, then turn off at the end again. So if we see this, let's see if it's working, and voila, you can see that this is working, which is really cool. And you can later modify this as well. So I'm just gonna move these forward a little. I'm just gonna move these forward a little, something like that. And now you can see that this is working flawlessly. How cool is that? I just want to look at it all day. So this is working, but for some reason, if there are parts of your object that are being affected by the lattice modifier, then what you can do is go to edit mode and you can create a vertex group of your eye socket. I've already gone ahead and created a vertex group like this. Then you can simply use the vertex group for the lattice modifier. So in here we can search for our vertex group and it will only affect those areas if you have problems. Okay, now let me show you how you can mirror this setup. I'm gonna go to the object data properties here in the shape keys, and I'm gonna click on this drop down and duplicate the shape key, which is gonna duplicate the shape key, but it's on the same position. We want to mirror it, so we can click the drop down again and mirror shape key, which is gonna mirror the shape key to the other side, which is really cool. We're gonna rename the second one to eyelid right close. What we're gonna do now is duplicate the lattice object. Alright, Shift D to duplicate it, and I'm gonna reset my 3D cursor by pressing Shift C, then changing the pivot point to 3D cursor, then S, X, then -1 to mirror it onto the other side. Change it back to median point, then RZ 180 degrees, sorry, RZ, then 90 degrees, -90 degrees, and now it's mirrored. Actually, I'm not gonna be duplicating this because right now I can edit the objects separately, so I'm gonna delete this and instead press Alt D. Okay, now let's mirror this quickly. RZ -90. Now if I edit one of these, it will also affect the other, which is really cool. So if I want to make changes, I don't have to make it in the other one as well. And let's also rename our lattices. Lattice L, lattice R, and now duplicate this lattice modifier and select the lattice R, and you would notice that the driver did not copy, but we can quickly create it again. So let's go to the object data properties, right click this value, copy as new driver, then in this strength we can right click and paste the driver. We have to edit this again, so it's not a big problem. Select the handle, upper handle, move this down by holding down Control, then select these two handles in the middle, these 2 points in the middle, then bring those up all the way so that this is touching one. Then we're gonna move this forward like this, move this down maybe a little, something like that. Okay, now it should be working. Yes, it should be working, but I've only animated the upper one, not the bottom one. So yeah, now you can see this is working as well. Another thing really important is select these two empties, then select your armature, go to pose mode and select your head bone. Okay, we're gonna go back to object mode, select these two lattice objects, select this one, make sure that the head bone is selected, then we can press Ctrl P and parent to the bone. So if we now rotate this head, it sticks with the object, which is really important. So that is it for this video, guys. I really hope you found this video informative. Please let me know what you thought of this workflow, and if you have a better workflow, please let me know. Leave a like and hit the subscribe button for more videos like this. I'll be back.